I had used I had shared what I had used in mine. However, that is certainly not exhaustive. And, I encourage you, if you're looking at a different form of analysis, I'm sure there are papers out there that are very recent that may help guide you in crafting really well-structured prompts. So, but the quality of the AI output is directly influenced by the quality of those prompts. So it's pretty important. And Lee et al. 2023, they highlight that varying prompts can yield different outcomes. So it's important to pay attention to that. I also wanted to point out that Messick 2023 shared that open-ended prompts can allow ChatGPT to generate broad and adaptive responses. So that's helpful to keep in mind also. And then Wang et al. Also share that if you're doing like a sentiment analysis, that it's really helpful to provide ChatGPT with specific examples as it can enhance its performance. So for instance, if there's a particular emotion, that you're looking for in the data, if you can give ChatGPT a sample sentence conveying that emotion, then it helps it be able to detect that in the analysis. So I don't know if I shared this or not, but some practical examples from my own research. I did utilize ChatGPT to help me construct the semi-structured interview guide. And so it was a really iterative process going back and forth until between ChatGPT and myself, it really helped me refine the questions that I was going to ask and to really make sure that I was addressing my research question. And so I did want to also point out, I did try to use it in cleaning transcripts, and I pulled in a practice transcript that I had done with Dr. Lehman back in, I think, maybe 2021, 2022, something like that. And it didn't do so well at cleaning the transcripts. It tried to condense it and summarize it, and you don't want to lose any of the data. And so I would not recommend using it for that. I did employ it for reflexivity because I shared my own reflexive statement, and then I asked ChatGPT to do the same, and I'll share a little bit more about that later, but it did an excellent job conveying its reflexive statement. And then I compared prompts. And so that was really helpful. I used Zhang et al. And Brown and Clark, and I believe that was attached to one of the announcements. So you have access to both of those. I felt like Zhang et al. Did a little bit better job, but you're welcome to pull up both of the articles and see what you think if you're thinking about using it for your research. So let's see. So I did this demonstration for the CETL talk, and so I wanted to share it with all of you. And so I just used the prompts that I used in my own research, and for this I only used the Brown and Clark. And so I pulled in just 4 transcripts. And so I wanted to show that on the paid version, I don't know if this is on the free version too, but right here, there's like a little paper clip. And so that's how you can attach files. When I did all 17 for my dissertation, I uploaded 4 at a time. I was just nervous that I didn't want to crash anything uploading too much data at once. So after I uploaded the 4 transcripts, I just entered the first prompt, which honestly I could have entered all 4, but so this was the output, and I'll share these slides if anybody's interested in them and seeing the output. And then I entered the prompts 2 through 4, and it came out with this analytic report, which was just incredible. And so it did find 5 overarching themes, and then it explained the themes. If you notice, the supporting data is pretty minimal, like, 1 sentence. And so that's what maybe we had discussed before, is that it does not provide the contextual depth that person-centered analysis would provide. So that's where you have to balance, the efficiency of time with being practical and wanting to be thorough in your analysis.
So Carlene, I have a question here, and I haven't done this at all. Could you say to ChatGPT, provide 7 quotes as evidence for each theme?
And you probably could. I bet they would still be one sentence quotes.
Okay.
I'm not convinced that they would be like thorough chunks, but
Okay.
I think it'd be worth a try, definitely.
Yeah, so I think that probably be the first thing I mess around with, but you also did see that in vivo too.
Yeah. And so I just put together just a quick table so that you could see the 5 themes that it pulled. I think it does a beautiful job describing the themes. Where I feel like it lacks is in the supporting evidence. And so that's where you would need to come in. And like Dr. Lehman said, definitely try it in the prompts and see if it provides a little bit more contextually rich evidence. So then I also employed it for reflexivity. So this is the prompt I used, asking it to provide its reflexive statement. And this is the entirety of what it provided me. But just bullet pointed, it indicated that it played a neutral role in the analysis, that it lacked personal beliefs, and that would influence the research. But it did also indicate that the training data, the algorithms, and the human oversight due to the developers could inadvertently introduce biases or personal values from the developers. It also indicated that the lack of personal experience also offered, positives and negatives. Positive in the way that it was very objective, but negative in the way that it lacked maybe that emotional depth. And then it also conveyed the ethical considerations that it really aimed to accurately represent participant voices and to avoid misrepresentation. And interestingly, it positioned itself as a neutral tool and didn't indicate that it was the primary researcher. So, I wanted to go back. Let me go back to some, if it will let me go back. Let's see. I wanted to go back to show the difference in the depth of what it finds. So in my thematic analysis for my dissertation, I personally came up with 4 themes. ChatGPT using Brown and Clark, it emerged with 6, and then using Zhang et al, it emerged with 5. But just here in the supporting quotes, the traditional, you can see you're getting a big chunk of information supporting influences and perceptions that shape vaccine decisions. So this participant, Ivy, was sharing that her baby, she had done all the vaccinations she had with her older 2 children, no problems. And then when this baby was 9 months old, she took her in for one of those shots that were multiple shots in one. And when she took her home, she actually had such an adverse reaction that they had to take her back to the hospital where she was diagnosed with kidney failure. And so fortunately, they were able to save her, but she ended up being medically exempt from immunizations. And then that convinced Ivy that she didn't really want to immunize her other children. So you can see that that's like contextually rich, supporting influences and perception shaping vaccine decisions. Whereas Brown and Clark, there's one little sentence from Stella and one little sentence from Maddie supporting those themes. So I also want to pull up this. Can you see the table?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is the table of themes for my traditional analysis. And so you can see these supporting quotes over here. And this is going to go on for a few pages because it's quite lengthy. So this is all just from my analysis. And then when you get to ChatGPT, these are the supporting quotes. So I recommend, like Dr. Lehman said, definitely if you're wanting to use this in your analysis, try adding, that prompt to see if it will provide any more contextual depth. But typically it was just one or two sentences that it conveyed. But Zhang et al. Definitely did a little bit better job. So I wanted to share that with all of you. And then I think that's about it. The only other thing was that I did use a rubric to compare my analysis with the two analysis. And so I don't know, that's just a consideration, just making sure that your analysis using AI is just rigorous and, just supports trustworthiness in your research. So I think that's all I have. If any of you want to go back to any of the slides, let me know, or if you have any questions.
Carlene, can you, when you get a minute, I think instead of emailing the slides,
Mhm.
put them in the analysis module and last week's, but
Okay.
you can put them in as a PDF if you prefer. You do however you want.
Okay.
And then, did you say to them, and maybe I just zoned out, that you used ChatGPT Pro?
I think I mentioned it just briefly that I
Okay,
use the paid version, and that's where I'm not sure if the free version, if you can upload files.
okay.
You might have to have the paid version for that.
You can upload in the free? Okay, they
Okay.
said you can.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then, did you give the hours of differences? Time?
Oh gosh, that's a huge one. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, so of course I'm probably a little bit slower than the average bear, but I mean it was 17 interviews, just masses and masses of data. And so from start to finish, it took me about 60 hours to complete my full analysis. And using the Brown and Clark prompts, it took ChatGPT 7 minutes, and it took ChatGPT 4 minutes using the Zhang et al. Prompts. And some of that time was me inputting the information. So it's a tremendous time savings. And then something I highlighted in my dissertation also was the money savings. So as students, we're fortunate that we have access to in vivo for free, with our student fees. But if you were a researcher, maybe in a country that wasn't westernized, it could be cost prohibitive because it's over $1,000 to gain access to in vivo's software. So ChatGPT definitely is a time savings and can be a tremendous cost savings as well.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing right now is, let's say you were doing institutional research or you were in a large research grant and they said, hey, we want to know how the study's going. You could just jump into ChatGPT, you'd be ready for a 10-minute Zoom talk as part of a larger meeting. This is what we're starting to see, da da da. It is not going to go to a dissertation or journal article in that condition. That won't happen. Maybe you need to make a quick infographic, something like that. So we would consider thinking of that as, what is the feel of this data? What is the shape of it currently? And that's not to say that that won't change. Now, Carlene, given that this is an intro class, many of us have never done any qualitative analysis. So if someone was to say to you, well, what do you mean it took 60 hours, how I did my qualitative analysis? Can you just very much break down a exact kind of little picture of what is that you're doing? What's the mystery there?
Yeah, I think it's just the reading, and rereading. And you see that all over in qualitative literature. But you just need to get such a feel for it, because when you start coding, I coded line by line. And so some people do chunks, some people just do little excerpts, but I wanted to be really, really thorough and make sure that every piece of the data had a code. So then once you go through and code one transcript, then the next transcript may have some new codes. Then you have all these codes and you have to see how those fit together into themes. Because as we saw in the demonstration for in vivo last week, you can't have 55 themes or 40 themes and have it be very meaningful, you know, in being able to convey the results. And so I think that's what took the biggest portion of time, is just reading and rereading and then coding line by line, you know, 17 transcripts, and then filtering those into the themes that emerged from that.
Yeah, so remember all the words that are in your laptop to explain things are functions of real life things like cut, paste. And so you can print all your transcripts out. You literally cut them up, put them in different stacks, or highlight them. Some people like to work partially out with the printed, then highlight them and make subfiles within their computer. I myself don't like to print them very often anymore unless I'm going to be able to sit outside quite a bit, just because of you know, paper usage and ink usage. But back in the day, I would have done that. You'll see people that still feel very kinesthetic about that. They'll print them out and tape them all across walls, and those will actually go in dissertations as a figure sometime. Others of you will want to work completely within Word or Google with files, subfiles, or you can work kind of back and forth between NVivo or the Taget software that we suggested. The Taget, it's in a browser, it's free. And then if you're working in a group, I think we said NVivo wasn't working for over 3 people is where that was at, but that's always worth checking because they're always changing things. And if you do go the route of NVivo, that's kind of beyond this class. We're not requiring it, but wow, do they have tons of helps and videos. And then if you're someone that's kind of getting into it, don't forget Carlene will teach that class in the spring. So let's take your questions now. What kind of questions? Keola?
So when you compared like your ChatGPT output to what you personally coded, were the reference or were the like direct quotations like accurate? Did you actually find those
Oh,
exact?
yes. Yes, they were very accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when I went through and compared, I just wanted to see, was it, you know, did it understand the data, the coding accuracy like you're asking? I felt like it was very reliable. It just didn't give as much. Like the quotes definitely supported the theme. It just wasn't enough in my opinion. And honestly, in reading qualitative research, I don't know that a journal would maybe feel like it was enough either.
No, no way. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just the thematic analysis process, of course, you know, did it follow rigorous process, the interpretation, did it have insightful findings, just the overall quality and rigor, and then the reflexivity I included in the rubric as well.
Now, how did it go with you hearing Keola's question today, Carlene?
I heard it a lot better. It's a little bit faint, but I heard it a lot better.
Okay, I asked IT to come down and check the setup, and they said they did that, and then I just did what I normally do. So who knows? Okay, because he's kind of back, not totally where he used to sit, but not real close. It's like that got shifted over, huh? All right, other questions or comments?
I have the questions for you, Dr. Carlene.
Is that Amani? Yeah.
Yeah. If I use ChatGPT to analyze my data, could that cause any issues when I publish my paper? Or when I write it with my references, that will be on the safe side?
Um, I I think as long as you're transparent, you know, when you're talking about your methodology and your analysis process, that you're very transparent about how you analyze the data. So include that you use ChatGPT. If you're able to use prompts that ChatGPT provides you with enough information to support the themes, then I think you're okay, but you're going to have to go back and double check all of that to ensure accuracy. And in my opinion, you might have to go back, and if you agree with its themes, because you have to agree with what it you know puts out, you might have to go back and find information that supports those themes maybe a little bit better.
Yeah, this is an interesting question, Amani, because this is a very quickly shifting field. It's just changing all the time.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with Carlene, but it won't surprise me that there could be a journal that has a statement that says you can't use it. And so, for
Mm.
example, you want to always be thinking about what does your grad school say for your dissertations? Carlene and I have found that there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of fear. Faculty are concerned about how do they ensure that this is actually the student's work and still make the degree rigorous. I mean, the PhD is the top degree that you can get, and so few people get it. How do they make it rigorous? So I'm actually going to look, when you said that, that's intriguing to me. I wonder if any of the major groups like Nature Journal or Springer's Publishing House has made a statement about that. So just to give you an example, my son is a freshman in college, and his faculty said, his English faculty said, you cannot use Grammarly or anything like Grammarly to edit your paper. But he did not say that you couldn't pay an editor. So we've always paid editors. I pay an editor. And so it's like an old school shift where I think for myself, the English faculty that are getting it better are shifting back to doing workshopping in the class. So they have a 3-hour class, so they write in the class like you would have done when you were trying to do workshop model anyways. And then they absolutely know it's the student's work. A different faculty, they have to write in pencil. So they certainly know it's the student's work. In the class, they have to sit there and write in pencil. So this is just moving a lot. So I think it would be a good question to ask Dr. Koo and Dr. Faber. And maybe you would review like what are the ET journals saying? Because the concern they have is we know if AI can help with analysis, we absolutely know AI can write the paper. We know that. And so then where does it come that desperate people aren't just having AI write a paper? So I don't know. That's very tricky.
Well, I did want to share, obviously, like Dr. Lehman said, look into what the journal article, is conveying regarding AI. But many of the research articles that I found did use AI, and they were being published. And so, but you definitely have to check the journal guidelines, and like Dr. Lehman said, with your faculty as well.
Yeah, because for analysis, to say that we can use software for it, you can use NVivo's AI, but you couldn't use ChatGPT's AI. It's very odd. So I think it would be kind of hypocritical. It's such a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll know in 10 or 15 years and look back and be like, wow, we were naive. My friend who's a math tutor said that it reminds her of how everybody lost their minds when you could use the sophisticated calculators. They said nobody will know how to do math again. I'm like, well, it kind of reminds me of that, but more excessive. Other questions or comments? Okay, so I'd like to know before Carlene leaves, has anybody started analysis? And that's not to put pressure on you. You don't need to have started, but we'd like to hear about it. Anybody yet? Okay, so I have a feeling when we're back from our pseudo class and Thanksgiving break, somebody will have. So during the researcher experience, if you would pipe up and share with us what you're doing, how it's going. So then my other question is, given that it's still in theory, what are we thinking? What are people thinking? What are you saying, Tina?
Oh, just that I'm saving the excitement of reviewing my data and interviews next week.
Got it. It's a good between turkey cooking activity, huh? So
Indeed, it might be a good way to bow out if the family events.
oh my goodness, yeah. I hope for everybody that goes well. To go sit in your car and do analysis instead of smoking something. Kayla, what were you gonna say? Oh, I forgot I'm recording myself. My God. I think I'll cut the recording off now. When I get